Okay, welcome back to The Wheel Breakers. This is a Game of Thrones podcast presented by your friends at The Real World and TheRealWorld.com, SoundCloud.com/Mike and Matt. My name's Matt. I'm joined by Mike. That's where the Mike and Matt comes from. Mike Thomas, how are you on the eve of, at the recording, your 30th birthday?
Wow, really just killed my desire to do anything.
It's fine.
Right now.
It's fine. Yesterday, I found my first grey hair, so we're even.
Oh, you're lucky.
Oh.
I got like a haircut last night, and just like there's grey everywhere. It's awful.
Well, then I've just piled on, really, haven't I?
Really? Yeah.
By the time anyone hears this, you'll have processed it. It won't even be a thing anymore. So
Sure.
this was The Wheel Breakers. It was a great podcast for five episodes, and then I killed it in episode 6.
It's really a shame that like a pedophilia rapist came up with the phrase "age ain't nothing but a number," and specifically in that context, because that is like a really good quote, right? And then I found myself being like, "Shit, no, that I can't quote the pedophilia rapist." Fuck you, R.
Life
Kelly.
is full of its inconveniences, isn't it?
Fuck you, R. Kelly.
Speaking of rapists and pedophilia, Game of Thrones, Season 6. This is the season I have the least memory of, and watching it again was kind of a trip. Like, I remember Jon obviously comes back to life, and Daenerys finally decides to sail to Westeros, and Cersei blows up the Sept, but kind of everything that happens between those moments, complete shock to me. Stuff like the wildlings coming back to save Davos in episode 1 or 2. 2, there you go. See, I don't even remember it, and I just watched it. Just no memory. 7 somehow stuck more, and obviously the ones where they're playing by the script of the book, that's like double ingrained in my head. But yeah, this one pretty not memorable to me. I think we've been saying this for a couple of episodes now, some great individual moments, just in terms of an overall level of consistency. This might be the weakest season, I think, but 7 will piss me off in ways that this won't. So
I feel like 7 is objectively the worst season, on a show making level.
Okay.
I think they weren't really prepared to condense a 10-episode season into 7. I'm still not entirely sure if that was necessary beyond just they get to pay the actors less.
Capitalism wins again.
Yeah, it wasn't like they had 7 episodes of material. It kind of felt like they had 10 episodes of material, and they just condensed it down to 7. And I still don't quite understand that. This season's interesting for book readers. This is the point where you finally had to be like, put up or shut up with whether or not you were going to wait for the next book.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely knew you were getting some spoilers, theoretically, in seasons 5 and 4, probably.
Yeah.
Definitely season 5. But now it was like, for book readers and show viewers, everyone was on the same playing field for the first time.
Yeah, you're flying blind.
Yeah, no one knew what was going to happen, what they were going to do, what they would reveal that would potentially... Well, I mean, at this point, they are spoiling the books, theoretically, depending on how much they decide to take from George R. R. Martin's outlines and notes.
They even name an episode up after the upcoming, allegedly, book.
Yes, The Winds of Winter, which definitely exists and is definitely being published one day.
Yeah, definitely. We'll be a lot older than 30 when that one comes out.
As we discussed in our last recording, episode 5, this in some ways feels like a part 2 on season 5, which again is so weird given that like book 3 is actually a 2-part season between season 3 and 4, and season 5 is somehow books 4 and 5 combined, but really in some ways the first half of a 2-season arc.
Yeah.
It's madness. It's absolute madness.
It is. It's anarchy.
Here you get the conclusion of the Ramsay storyline, the Waif storyline, and the Sparrow storyline.
Storylines that didn't need to be 2 seasons.
Yeah, storylines that, you would probably want to do air quotes when you said storyline.
The thing that happened continues to happen.
Really, like, if you can't, that's like whatever the opposite of a Murderer's Row list of storylines is, that would be the opposite. And that's kind of what I mean when I said the show got better at making the show, as in, like, it's still a compelling season of television.
Yeah.
I'm still interested in all the characters. If this was the first season, no one would have given a fuck. You could not have made a season. The first season of the show could not have been Ramsay, the Sparrow, and the Waif. You could only kind of get away with this later on. And I think it kind of felt frustrating at this point.
Yeah, because Cersei is undoubtedly positioned as the one we should root for when it comes to her versus the High Sparrow, but, like, I don't want to root for Cersei. So. Yeah,
I mean, they made... Like, I think it really contributes to my astounding idea that I came up with on the fly last week, is that Cersei should have died at the end of Season 5.
Yes, copyright.
That was her Ned moment. It would not have nearly been as shocking, but it would have been more fitting, and it would have been more consistent with this idea that important people actually die in the show at the right time when they should die, and not we have this vision for they clearly just kind of fell in love with the standoff idea of Cersei versus Daenerys, which does not really feel very Game of Thrones to me.
Nope.
And it's kind of cool at the end of 6 when it's like all the women have now become like the heads of their things, but then they kind of throw all that goodwill away at the beginning of season 7 as they murder half of them or enslave the other half. I don't know, it kind of rang phony at the time that was the big standoff. Like Cersei just was never that character.
Yeah,
she was very much the Ned Stark of the Lannisters, in that she was not nearly as well suited for this as she thought she was. And, you couldn't have... It probably should have been something like a Marjorie kind of making a play where she gets a little cutthroat and takes the throne from everybody.
Yeah.
Like Marjorie pulling off the ending in some odd, different way probably would have been, I think, more appropriate.
Because, Cersei's revenge this season, she blows up the Sept of Baelor with, ahead of her trial by the Sparrows, with all these highborn people there, pretty much everyone except for her and Tommen. Tommen is kept behind. But she killed... Yeah, in the mountain, But, she kills Marjorie...
Kevin Lannister, Marjorie, Iron Fist, their dad, the Sparrow, Lancel, Grandmaster Pycelle...
Yeah.
And the conclusion of killing off all the old actors before they die in real life.
Yes. And also, a whole lot of just bystanders. And was this the exact thing the Mad King attempted to do? Or is this was he trying to destroy all of King's Landing? Or was this his exact setup? Because, they used some of it for Blackwater, so I assume...
I think his idea was all King's Landing to go up,
okay.
But maybe that could have been more metaphorical or hyperbole.
But, a visually shocking thing, this huge green explosion levels a large chunk of the city and, mass murder. And I asked last time, Cersei goes through all this stuff. Does she learn from it? And I don't know if she really does. No. I think she's the same as she was before. It's just she's angry about more things now. And, you mentioned Marjorie. It really kind of pisses me off that this is how Marjorie goes out because... Yeah. She ostensibly becomes devout. Cersei got out of this the way she got out of it. Marjorie goes with, I'm just going to become incredibly devout, I'm going to trick this guy, I'm going to recite verses from the books of the Seven at him, and denounce my old life, and he seems to enjoy engaging with her about religion, and they talk about his past, and this, that, and the other. Yeah, but she's playing a longer game. Yeah. And she slips Olenna the note, well, it's not a note, it's a drawing of their sigil or whatever, to say, hey, it's still me, don't worry about it. But, there kind of is and there isn't a dangling question with Marjorie of, how phony is she? Because on some level... It is a complete character arc, and we know what we know. She's just a person that was playing this game, and she manipulated who she manipulated, and did what she did, and got the position she got, and, I don't think she's not charitable, but she's certainly making sure that people see her be charitable, this kind of stuff. But there's just always been this kind of, what's Marjorie's play? And in the book it's even more so because she's having secret abortions and Cersei's trying to figure out who she's sleeping with, and I feel like there's just some big giant question mark that will forever go unanswered because they decide, fuck it, let's kill them all.
Yeah, I think there's kind of that Shay situation with Marjorie, which is where they expanded her role on screen. They got someone who I'm not sure is a good actress, but is someone who performed very well in this role. Just based on her other non-Game of Thrones work, I've kind of been oh, maybe she's just it's like an Oberyn situation where she just kind of got lucky with this one role. And she became a fully realized character who's should have had a more active role one way or the other in her own death. And instead, just she was just another piece of the board to be cleared away before the final season.
And she suspected, this is happening, and she shows her hand, she tells the High Sparrow to shut up.
Smart. She gets to look smarter than the other characters, but in the end, she's just
she just dies.
Another toothpick.
And, this confusing the 99% allegory continues where, they're presenting themselves as we're the downtrodden, we're the many, you're the rich few, you have everything, we have the numbers. Jaime repeatedly attempts to threaten him, because, Jaime returns, he's right, I'm going to sort this out. And he's I'm going to kill you right now. He's yeah, you probably will, but we'll kill you after. And then he, marches up to the steps with a full-on army, but it just doesn't work. But, the Sparrows are not good people. They torture Loras for being gay, and there's a lot of violence towards women and just everyone, and it's very... It's weird.
Kind of would have been cool if they actually were positioned to be more sympathetic.
Yeah.
I mean, like, really, the only thing they had going for him is that they got the best actor in the show to spout off the terrible lines and make it, interesting.
He continues to be great. Like,
I mean, Jonathan Pryce is just fucking fantastic on this. I don't know how he made this role work. Yeah. It's a real credit to him, because I really don't think the role is good at all.
And, Marjorie got these great scenes with him where they're talking about, his former life. And, that's all fine. But, Cersei, her and Jaime, like, they're trying to make alliances and no one wants to talk to them. And, she eventually goes with this. But
it
it's
just
weird.
Could have been more.
Yeah.
It could have been more meaningful, and it wasn't.
And, like, she's got the big zombie version of the Mountain who crushes a dude's head, rips another dude's head off. And it's like, oh, well, she's just going to demand a trial by combat. She wins. Boom, bam, boom. And then they outlaw trial by combat, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. But then we never get a trial. And I'm not sure we needed a trial, but just on some level, that might have been an interesting thing. Like, what's her next play? And I guess her next play is blow everyone up. But yeah, and then Tommen obviously kills himself because of Marjorie, but maybe also the High Sparrow, and maybe he genuinely, I don't know. He was weak-hearted, but yeah, and you just end up with there's no one else, so Cersei just gets to be queen, and we get like the 5th version of Jaime looking on a little bit disapprovingly, but don't worry, she'll give him a blowjob soon and they'll be friends again.
Yeah, it's not good. It's like Ned. It's like, I think Cersei kind of became for the show what Ned was for viewers, which was that they grossly misunderstood the importance of the actual show. And she should have gone a season ago. Yeah, and nothing that's happened a season since really justify her existence. She went too far down. Yeah. To be, like, they had to go on full redemption with her, and they didn't. Made her more annoying and grating.
Her story was kind of, she's observed all these men all her life. Just been smart. She's been motivated by this, that, and the other. She's known how to play people. She can play the game better than everyone, blah, blah, blah. And then she comes up against someone who she's just misunderstood the situation. She makes all the wrong decisions, and that should have been it. But because she doesn't change from this. She just gets revenge and carries on, even more resolved. So it's like, I feel, like you said, she's kind of outlived her narrative use at this point, and she's just there because she's a strong presence, and she's like someone the fans all hate, so she has to stay.
Recognized as a big character.
Yeah.
And even the hate for her just feels kind of shitty. It doesn't feel...
Yeah, because we said it last time, the Walk of Shame, that's far too far. She doesn't... Yeah. And I feel they're setting her up as the Mad Queen, and maybe Jaime will kill her too, I don't know. Speaking of the Mad King, the episode before this happens, Tyrion and Dany do talk about how the Mad King almost did this, and that's clearly there to put that idea back in everyone's heads, so that when Cersei does it, it's he did. They do that a couple of times this season. I think Walder Frey mentions the Brotherhood an episode before they show back up, and they've had so much continuity and stuff happen that they do have to keep reminding people about things. The other, the big thing here is, we finished last season with Jon dead, and sure enough, he is resurrected by Melisandre in episode 2, who is an old lady, by the way. Before we get there, what happens with Melisandre next season? Has she been seen since she's been banished, or...?
So what's funny is I had the same thought rewatching. I had the 7 episodes. How many would you guess she's in?
1?
I would say, so my guess was when I rewatched it was going to be 0. She's in at least 2, if not 3.
Oh, great. Well, I look forward to that. As part of this ritual, she cuts his hair, and we spoke about how they tried to sell this lie of him being gone by, he's not allowed to cut his hair, and here he is with shorter hair, so there you go. Jon's death and then resurrection, it conveniently unshackles him from the wall because his vows are until he dies, and he's dead. So he hangs the people that killed him, including the kid, and that was kind of brutal. And then off he fucks, and it's nice that he's reunited with Sansa, and he gets to do the King of the North narrative that Robb didn't get to finish. But are we going to see Castle Black again? I mean, he sort of just gives Dolorous Ed his cloak and is like, yeah, see ya. I guess you're Lord Commander now. Him and Sansa, it's nice to see, because these two were not close before, and she was always mean to him, and they acknowledge it, and she says, oh, it's horrible to you, please forgive me. But to see, these two reunite, it is undeniably kind of a nice moment. It's after all this sadness, they're getting something nice. But what I hate is they sow this dissent. They try and sell this, infighting between Sansa and Jon, and they'll do it again next season with Sansa and Arya, and it's fuck off. at this stage of the game, with all these impending threats, can we just have the few nice people who are finally reunited just like each other? I mean, it might just be me, but it kind of pissed me off seeing, like, Littlefinger trying to fan these flames and tear them apart.
I mean, it was far more frustrating in the ensuing season, where I'm just like, oh my god, they clearly just, like, did not feel like they had enough for them to do. So they had to do this fucking metaphorical game of face, like, oh god, and you try to, like, I mean, it's way worse than next season. Yeah. Here, like, it was frustrating. I think it came at least from a more character-based, understandable place.
Yeah, this one isn't as bad, for sure.
Yeah, and they have a number of small moments where I think, like, okay, that was kind of interesting that their different experiences at this point in time give them different worldviews, and thus they approach all these things very differently.
Yeah, and like when she says, I lived with him, I know him better than you, and Jon's like, well, what do you think I've been doing, just sitting around or whatever? Like,
yeah, and I think they kind of both have a point.
They do,
which helps again, like the fact that they're arguing in a way you don't want them to argue, but also like some of their points are perfectly reasonable.
When she's criticizing his battle plan, but then doesn't have any solutions herself, it's kind of like. Right. You're right, because she is proved right, because Ramsay does, for most of that battle, outsmart Jon. But then she didn't have any solutions herself, so it's kind of like, well, what are you doing here? Like,
I think it's really, really well done in that sense.
Sure. It's just,
it's just kind of like, okay, it's season 7. It's like, it's kind of like, I remember this feeling around, like, book 5 of Harry Potter, where, like, he's still getting into, like, fights with Malfoy over school points. I'm just like, are we done with pretending this shit matters? And like, don't we have bigger fish to fry than school points in book 5? And it's just like come on. Yeah. At this point in the game, it's life or death.
This story would be compelling in an earlier season, but in this late on, it's like it's not appropriate.
So like, I think it's done well here, but I'm with you. I didn't want to see it, and I mean, we'll both have a lot to say. I mean, about season 7 in general, but particularly the Arya Sansa thing. Yeah.
So they go around, recruiting as many Northern Lords as they can. It's not going well for them. We get Lyanna Mormont, who is great, and she has 62 fighting men, and Davos is the one that convinces her to give them to them. Meanwhile, Ramsay murders his father, Roose, and I found myself in a previous season asking myself, what happens to Roose? I assume Ramsay kills him, but I don't remember it, and then it happened, I was like, okay. And it just felt like they realised they wanted Ramsay to be the final boss, as it were. They didn't want him to be like the mini boss before Roose. They didn't know what to do with Roose, so Ramsay just kills him and just assumes his entire like empire. And you get these shitbags who are from other houses that we've seen in previous seasons, but we barely remember. And I think the battle is really, really well done. Like, the Battle of the Bastards episode, from a production standpoint, probably the most impressive thing they've done. And, like, they do a good job of being like, look, Ramsay has outthought him. But Ramsay is just not.
In a way, I think, like, the perfect comparison is to him with Joffrey, which, the moment they give Joffrey power, they decrease his presence on the show dramatically. Like, he's in every episode of season 1, and you can't forget about him the next 3 seasons. But they cut his episode count significantly in comparison to that. Like, they understand that, like, it's kind of frustrating as a viewer to have to watch this guy.
Yeah.
And they just fucking love this fucking actor, and he's a good actor. He was really good on Misfits.
Yeah.
And he did everything they
Misfits? Wow.
Yeah. First 3 seasons. First 2 in the Christmas special. When the annoying guy left, I stopped watching.
Okay.
He was married to Sophie Bakula. I just discovered this while we were recording. That blows my mind.
Yeah, wow.
He's way too annoying for that. Anyway, just like Ramsay's just 4 seasons of Ramsay.
Yeah.
4 seasons of Ramsay.
You hate him, you want him to be taken down, but just he is not the compelling villain that you want for
I mean, like, their only shot was season 5. Somehow, the presence of Sansa makes him more into a human being. And I don't think that's what they should have done. I'm not saying it would have worked. But that was... Once that didn't go in that direction, they had to come up with a different thing for him. They just... And I think the showrunner's fascination and love of him and his character...
Well, they just like doing cruel... They just like doing cruel things, and he's good at being just heartless person.
I think it reveals the weaknesses of the Benioff and Weiss team.
Yeah.
And I think when you see the treatment like the way they just kind of casually switch Daenerys and Drogo's relationship to falling in love with a rapist. We know that's not in the text. It kind of just reveals, like, when you think about their supposed next show happening, the Confederate show, I'm just like,
how?
That is going to be a fucking disaster. In broad strokes, in a storyline sense, I mean, Ramsay's by far the worst thing they've ever done. It's unwatchable on rewatch. Nothing he does can you take any pleasure in.
I think by not doing well enough by Roose, that didn't help either, because the one thread they could have tugged at, other than that Sansa one, is he is the big man.
He's Tywin to Ramsay's, like, Joffrey, basically.
Sure, like, Ramsay presents himself as the big man, like, he can talk shit to anyone, he can kill anyone, he can do what he wants, but Roose just, reduces him to, like Tywin does to Joffrey, he just reduces him back to a child, and, like, he wants his approval, and he is scared of him, and all of this. And if Roose had been more of a three-dimensional character who had more of a presence and more scenes, then maybe they could have done something with this, but he just comes across as a pathetic, jealous, bitter little boy, and, like, the stuff with Roose's new baby, and, like, low key, him feeding her and her newborn son to those dogs, one of the worst things that the show's ever done, and, like,
it's awful. It's objectively awful. It's the worst thing the show did.
Yeah,
there's almost just like this feeling of relief when he's finally killed. Like, but it's not joy. It's not satisfaction. It's just like, fuck, finally, it's over.
I think a lot of people did cheer when he was killed, but, it leads up to this...
People are morons.
Sure. It leads up to this big episode, and the intensity of it is insane. Like, the claustrophobia of when Jon is literally under a pile of people and can't breathe, and he crawls up and gets the air, and before that, like, the big one-shot with horses flying by him barely not being killed, like, dozens of times, and it's muddy and it's bloody, and the huge mountain of bodies that becomes like a wall that they get pinned against, with that visual from above of the shields, so good. And just to really just give him one more pilot on moment, Rickon has to run to Jon, and Jon charges to get him, and that leaves Jon out in the open, which forces the two sets of horses forward. And then because Ramsay's got the numbers, he doesn't give a shit. He will just fire arrows all day, which brings out, the infantry, and then they're able to flank them. It's really well done as a sort of chess move battle scene, and it's the first actual one army versus one other army battle scene they've really done, I think. And I think they do it well. It's just...
I think they do it just well enough. There's still that, like, oh, this is TV moment here and there.
But this is what they had in their head when they made Blackwater,
Yeah. I mean, to me, the problem is, once again, Blackwater worked because, like, you're so focused on Tyrion, cheering for Tyrion, and then you remember, like, occasionally they remind you, it's like, Tyrion wins, Joffrey's the fucking king. And then you're like, oh my god, please Stannis, win. I mean, there's none of that here. It's as black and white as it gets.
And, like, you kill Jon, shocking, you bring him back. Is there any...
like...
You can't kill him again until the end.
And again, at this point, and I'm not even... They create all these dramatic situations where it's like, okay, they could have killed Tormund, right?
Yeah, I thought they were going to be honest.
They really, really make it seem like they're going to.
Yeah.
But it's like, what a shitty thing to waste Tormund's death on. And they keep getting stuck in these situations where where a death really seems like it's needed, in the sense that it's too ridiculous that all of our favorite characters don't die.
Yeah.
But the moments become less and less meaningful, so it seems like a waste to kill them. And this happens over and over and over again over seasons 5, 6, and 7.
They'll kill a Barristan Selmy, but they'll spare a Tormund or a Cersei.
Right.
Even.
Like, that's the thing, is that, like, Barristan's death was so meaningless. Like, but of course, like, everyone shouldn't have survived that situation, but you as the showrunner made that situation.
Yes.
Like, you could have made a better situation. I mean, it comes up again with Bran in season 7. It's like, of course Bran should have fucking died in in that fucking thing.
Yeah.
But what a waste it would have been just to kill Bran like that.
But again, like, I can't understate this. Like, I've never felt so, like, panicked watching something as I have this, like, when he is, like, gasping for air. Like, that was so intense. But
I mean, the claustrophobic moment in particular was like, oh, I've never seen that done before.
Yeah, exactly. And
I don't know if that reflects any actual what medieval battle scenes were like. It seems like the actual bodies piling up seem kind of like
that got a bit farcical, but I think
and like how did the other bodies get on top of there to die eventually? Like shouldn't it be like a moat of bodies, maybe more or less than a wall?
But just that general thing of like the oppressive crush of humanity aspect, I haven't really seen that done before, so that was pretty cool. But I guess I'm relieved but somewhat shocked that the final fight, when Jon finally realizes, wait, Ramsay's played all of his hand, he's alone, I'll go after him. It's not a fight. Jon just walks towards him with a shield and then just fucking smashes his face in, because they toyed with Ramsay being this physical threat in earlier seasons, like when Yara comes to try and free Theon. Ramsay's covered in blood with 2 knives and is happy to be fighting, but here when he's presented with Jon, he just gets his ass kicked, and it didn't need more. But on some level I'm surprised they didn't go for this big dramatic one-on-one fight between them, but I don't want them to. I'm just surprised they didn't.
The only vaguely interesting thing is that he has the choice to kill Jon or to wipe out a race of people, and he wipes out the giant forever.
He does. Poor 1-1. Tormund doesn't die, but
I feel like it's vaguely interesting in the sense that does that actually maybe reveal something about how stupid Ramsay is, or how small-minded he is, that he takes more pleasure in killing, being able to kill a giant, being the person to strike the killing blow of a giant, than actually winning.
Giants are animals, he likes hunting, I don't know.
I don't know, is that
what they're going
maybe
for?
There's something there. Or was the show just got lazy and stupid with how they framed that shot, and they kind of accidentally stumbled into something?
They feel the way to make him a compelling villain is just have him do a series of bad things, and that's another fuck you moment. And
it's just stupid.
Yeah,
it's just a waste. Everything with Ramsay was a total waste.
Horrifically violent. The dog also. Bad CG looking dog biting his face off because Sansa lets them out, and
I would say if you redo it, you literally have Ramsay 1 episode a season. Because I think they could have pulled it off. You don't see Theon until the very, very end of that season, and you have him do that. You have 1 episode in 4 reestablishing who he is. 1 episode in 5 of them taking over the castle.
Sure.
And then 1 episode in 6. Oh no, 1 episode in 5 where they wipe out they're in the castle and they wipe out Stannis or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
In season 4 they take the castle. Season 5 they beat Stannis in 1 episode. Season 6 it's the Battle of the Bastards.
Or you make Roose a stronger presence and have Ramsay be stay his lieutenant, and maybe he kills Roose at the last minute and then dies. I don't know, but
okay, in my scenario we get less of the Ramsays.
Okay, sure.
In your storyline, we get more.
I was going for
I vote for mine.
All right, yeah, same. Less Ramsay would be good. I forgot how much he is in it, but yeah.
And they even in season 4, they only give him 3 episodes. It was a clear walk back.
Yeah.
And then even in his final season, he's not in it quite as much. It's just so not interesting when he's there.
No.
And the way they kill Tonks, and it's just another cringe. Oh, she gets naked and gets completely outsmarted and killed.
Yeah, and Ramsay doesn't fall for what Theon fell for.
Yeah, haha, so clever. It's garbage. Fuck Ramsay. It was awful.
Yes. Speaking of Theon, I know this is more of a thing for me than you, but I do want to talk about the Iron Islands because we spoke about how they completely botched Dawn last week. Crime is happening in Harlem. Yeah, you said how they toyed with going bigger, expanding the world, because in the books they introduce all these new characters, all these new locations. It's big, it's cool, and they toy with it with Dawn. They're like, yeah, we're gonna go to Dawn, and then it's fucking terrible. And speaking of this, they officially kill it off, because in the first episode the Sand Snakes kill Prince Doran, Tristan, Arya, all of that, and then we don't really see Dawn again until the end of the season. And then, spoilers, they're all going to die soon. And they do it again here. And they're like, right, let's do this Iron Islands plot from 3 books ago, with Euron Greyjoy killing Balon, and the Kingsmut, and Yara, and all of this. And they fucked this up as well. And I know you don't think this is very good in the book either. I kind of like it, but they rob it of any chance it had, because they take away any sense of mythology, because I remember there's the legend of the sea dragon's head and everything. They take away Yara's viewpoint chapters that make her a better character. They jettison the character of Victarion. Euron is different. He's one crazy dude by himself, basically. instead of, I imagined it as like a Captain Barbossa type thing with his like crew of the damned, and like he's seen the world, and like he's got all these weird things, and he has this magical horn that can allegedly tame a dragon, but it kills you when you blow on it. Like, all of that is, even if you don't like it, that sounds to me far better than what we get here, which is just some guy rocks up, says a bunch of shit, and then Theon and Yara run away, and his plan is, start cutting down trees, lads. We're going to start building boats from scrap. Like, I've seen the Iron Islands on this show. There's not one fucking tree. So, like... And then he's gone by, like, episode 4 or 5. And he's not to come back until next season. It's like, why did you even do this at all? Just cast this actor as someone completely different and have him rock up next season. Because, you know, they've done their 2 new locations or whatever, and they've botched fucking both of them. And this might as well have not happened, any of it. It just gives a way to get Daenerys back over to Westeros.
Yeah.
Which she had anyway.
I mean, to me, the only thing really notable about this is that when the actor comes back, Euron in season 7, I feel like his direction was, okay, do what you did, but be charismatic this time. And it feels like an actor desperately trying to be charismatic who is not charismatic. And it's so awful. Yeah. It's so awful.
But this is like nothing, though. Like...
Yeah, I mean, this is nothing. And awful is not nothing.
That's a swing... at something that might have been good, and I think he has like one funny line or whatever. But yeah, I'm just pissed at them for like failing to do any geography that isn't Westeros. Well, I know the Iron Islands are in Westeros, and so is Dawn. But you know, outside of the geography we're familiar with, they fuck it up 2 seasons in a row, and might as well have not done either of them. Yeah,
I mean, I think as we get deeper in the show, it becomes obvious they get obsessed with the quote-unquote Big Five, as they're referred to, which is Daenerys, Jon, Tyrion, Jaime, and Cersei. And they just kind of put a lot of stock in those characters, but they just kind of don't invest in the other worlds. It just kind of feels obligatory that they get involved at all. I mean, I really thought they just weren't going to bring back the Greyjoys.
No, I didn't either, because, as I said, this happened much earlier. And then they're we'll do it. And it's like, oh, okay.
Balin had 2 episodes in season 3. Season 2. 1 episode in season 3. And I'm just like, maybe they just don't bring him back. Like, they don't...
I was 100% convinced they weren't going to. And he is the last of Stannis' names, so you get to close that loop, finally. But I do like Yara being kind of, like, bawdy and, like, you know, flirting with Daenerys and stuff. I think that's kind of fun. But it's the tiny part of an overall just fucking failure. Like, just on every count, I think. Arya. Let's do Arya. So, she's been in Braavos for 2 seasons? Sure. She went to the House of Black and White, she's cleaning corpses, she's asking to learn to be a faceless man, and then she murdered the fuck out of Meryn Trant at the end of last season. Very violent. And she is punished by magically being blinded, and like, if this dude can just do that, like, you're all screwed. And she basically spends most of this season being assaulted by the waif, and at first she is blind. And she just gets bullied for a long time and then slowly improves. I think they shoot the little stick fights pretty well, and they edit it well with her getting her ass kicked time and time and time again. It conveys a good passage of time instead of her just magically... Rey becomes an amazing Jedi in one day kind of thing. But yeah, just the waif is not a compelling character, and it's just Arya getting beaten up.
It's very generous of you to refer to the waif as a character.
A thing that is on the screen. I like the Mama's play, I think. It's kind of fun. You get some good little character actors in there. Richard E. Grant doing his stint on Game of Thrones. Might have been fun for her to maybe join up with them and learn to, like, be an actor to, like, really round out her skill set as an assassin. But instead, she just doesn't want to kill one of them, and then the waif turns on her, well, stabs her. She clearly should have died from that stab wound. And then Arya, ultimately, because she was blind for that time, she knows how to fight in the dark. She kills the waif. She tells Jaqen to fuck off, basically, and then she goes and kills Walder Frey. And it's like 2 seasons of this, kind of.
Well, I mean, what's wild about it to me is that if you look at her growth as a person, it's basically she just acquired better killing tools in those 2 seasons.
Yes.
I mean, like, they have this big moment as a girl is someone, and I am Arya Stark, and I am going home. And it's a good line.
It is.
It falls a little flat because you're like, okay, you were trying to kid yourself into being no one this whole time. Yeah. But what's funny to me is that at the end of season 2, when Jaqen H'ghar offers her this coin, you're just begging her to go.
Yeah.
And then when she sails off the ship to end season 4, you're just like, oh my god, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And then it happens.
Just go back. I think we already mentioned it. She is at her best when she's paired with someone she can quip with, I think. Like, Tywin and the Hound and all these people. And the waif is not a character. Jaqen barely talks and is a completely different character than he used to be. And she's doing what she can, I guess, but they didn't know what to do with her, so they stretched this out to be super long. And
yeah, I think what's frustrating to me as a viewer, and it's like, okay, Martin's writing the books and he fucks up during these 2 books in some key ways. Like, he doesn't really know what to do with a lot of characters. Okay, it happens. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows and accepts this. How do you not fix this when you're adapting it? Especially a show that's not afraid to make changes. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you just not make some dramatic changes to what happens to these characters?
They're busy coming up with new ways to insert rape. So
yeah. I mean, it's awful. I mean, it's not a coincidence right now. We've talked about 4 storylines, and we've all said how awful they are.
Yes. Wow.
It's not a good season for the show.
Let's try and go 5 for 5 then, because Bran is going to go walking through time. So Bran just wasn't in last season. No one cared. He's back. The actor's older, I guess. And I guess they've just been in this tree for months. Possibly a year.
I'll play devil's advocate with this one.
Okay. I like parts of it, personally.
They struck out on the kid who plays Bran, unfortunately. It happens with younger actors. They struck gold with Arya and Sansa, I think, for the most part.
They did.
They struck out on Bran, though, unfortunately.
They did.
Luckily, they kind of just de-emphasized Bran, who was kind of easy to de-emphasize. I think if they maybe had a stronger actor or they took it in a more compelling direction, they probably could have easily made him a bigger deal in the show, but they wisely kind of just made him nothing. Yeah,
they surrounded him with people that might have made it better, and then they killed them off. And it's like, he's by himself? Sure.
I think another recasting alert, the Three-Eyed Raven is now Max von Sydow, which is like fine, and until the scene where we show him in the tree, and he looks like Max von Sydow hiding in a tree, as opposed to the guy who was a tree.
Yeah.
In season 4, like, that person felt one with the tree. Max von Sydow looks like he's like
I'm just in here, guys.
Yeah, like hiding inside of a tree. I guess like they realize people just don't care enough.
I love things like this because I know logistically how many eyes would have had to have seen it before it got on air.
I'm just like, I know it was 2 seasons ago, but like, this is not what it looked like by any stretch. And I mean, it's stupid. Like, it's not that important in the grand scheme of things. But the show is playing to a stadium crowd. It is not playing to a small building theater. Yeah. It's like, it is not some like small theater. They know they don't need to. They don't need to worry about the details sometimes. Clearly, and it reflects it. I like all the glimpses through time.
Yes.
I hate how young Ned is nothing. They screwed us up also with what's his name, the Mad King's oldest son. Why are these people so tiny? Like, they're so tiny. Like, they are. I know they weren't full-size men at this point, but it was a different age and time. Like, Robb did not look like this. Jon does not look like this. Why are they just like
it's just
flailing swords around in like skinny costumes? Like, that like really like I find like not upsetting. It's just like it just looks stupid. Especially Rhaegar in the next season, where it's just like Rhaegar was this great warrior.
He was a big presence. He was charismatic. He was a poet. He was a musician. He was a warrior. And it's like, here's this small man. I like Arthur Dayne. I don't know how many times they've even mentioned his name in the show at this point. They must have at least once. But he is a figure that comes up again and again and again in the books. So
the Sword of the Morning.
Indeed. Legendary warrior. And, you see him and them talking shit like, if we'd been there, you wouldn't have killed Rhaegar. It's like, that's a cool line. And then he, like, fucking destroys Ned's little force. 2 swords at once, some dumbass like Lord Grievous shit, but still cool. Like a well-shot sword fight, I think. And I kind of like it from like a choreography, sword fighting perspective. It's different. The show hasn't really done well with sword fights so far.
I put it somewhere in the middle. I assumed, because they announced that Ian McShane had 1 episode, I'm just like, oh wow, they're going to have Ian McShane play the Sword of the Morning. Pretty badass.
Yeah.
Given that it's not Ian McShane, like the most charismatic man in the show, I think the guy does a pretty damn good job for
he does.
The only expectation being, man, this could have been Ian McShane. And the moment he pulls out the second sword is really cool. I think some of the choreography does not fit in with how they've established sword fighting to be less pretty and more kind of rough and tumble in this world. It feels just like, ooh, we can do a bigger sword fight now. Let's try to do one. And It,
I don't know,
it doesn't
just
look good.
You
sometimes.
hear all these stories about the legendary Kingsguard, like him and Gerald Hightower and all these different people, and like
I
all
think
we've
what they
seen
could've done
is
is
just guys in cloaks, and like even if it is iffy, to see this guy just have this larger than life presence to intimidate all these men by himself, to kill so many by himself, and like Ned can't even beat him, and Ned is this perfect, wonderful angel warrior, and he gets saved by Howland Reed stabbing this dude in the back. It's like, oh, okay, and we're starting to question about Ned and how he isn't what he was portrayed as, and he isn't actually as honest as we thought he was. I think all of that is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the demythification of Ned and Robert and their time together, or their age, is really good stuff. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I think just like some of the running around the sword fight kind of bothered me. It didn't feel consistent with what they've established sword fighting.
Some part of my soul yearns for just dumbass, pompous sword fighting, and this is it. So I there you go. We also get part one of the 2-part Jon's parentage mystery here, because Bran realizes that Jon is Lyanna Stark's son, not some woman Ned banged, and we will find out who his father is, of course, next season. But yeah, we learn that.
They give George R. R. Martin one more chance to get the book out.
They did.
They really found a way to stretch this out over 2 fucking finales somehow.
Yeah. The longest enduring fan theory, and they were like, all right, we're going to do it.
And I think they would have revealed it here if not for the book situation.
Yeah.
I will say the montage that with the music playing as Bran is seeing the scene, and then Jon looks up from his father's seat. Really gets the blood going for me. That's
really good stuff. Just him.
I love a good musical cue. That's a great fucking musical cue.
It is a good
musical cue.
For fuck's sake! You make me edit these so hard. What do you think of the Night King and the slaughter of the children of the forest and all of this stuff, and Hold the Door, Hodor? Let's talk about that.
I love that the children of the forest accidentally created them.
Yes,
I think that's great. I think it is very Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
and it adds some nuance to them, some very much needed nuance. Whether or not that nuance will have any meaningful payoff in the final season, I very highly doubt it.
Yeah, because the idea there is they needed protection from men, or humans, and then it's going to come around to men must triumph over these monsters. It's like, well, you guys were the reason they were.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so the Hold the Door scene,
I can't decide if that is genius or terrible. And I feel I need you to tell me which one it is.
Neither.
Okay.
They killed that moment for me when the wolf just has a terrible CGI jump to death for no reason right before.
Yeah,
I was so emotionally taken out of that scene by that, where I was just like, what? I'm not even terribly invested in any one particular wolf, maybe besides Ghost. That was so... And again, in a season where they just kind of kill Shaggy Dog, it's almost to the point where I thought maybe they just should not have had them in the first place.
And they often look terrible.
The way they just off them just to get them off screen, I think is just kind of a joke. And I really, as Hodor was dying, I literally felt nothing about it.
It wasn't it was just the fucked upness that Bran... Because we've seen hints of this, that Bran
what I'm saying is I felt nothing about Hodor's death because I was so taken out of that episode after the dog. And I thought that was really, really just laziness on their part.
Sure.
For the Hodor thing, it's fine. I really think if the dog was not killed in that way, I probably would have been really sad and I probably would care more now. Yeah. I think the actual Hold the Door to Hodor thing...
Is that cute? Is that clever? Is it shit? I don't know.
There's kind of this tragedy element of it that I think kind of carries it enough to make it not annoying.
It's the implication that Bran ruined this guy's life.
Yeah, and that kind of tragic element of it kind of works. I don't know. That's all I'll say about that. Yeah. And again, also the way they just casually killed the 3-eyed raven. It's I am the 3-eyed raven. I'm like, what? They had 2 extra seasons to plan this part out. That's all they could come up with.
Well, they answered what happened to Benjen. Benjen's back as Cold Hands.
Thanks fucking God. Finally, we can end on a good note.
Yeah.
Again, to me, as someone who finds the mythology of the show, like the fact that there's like a younger Stark brother at the wall, when we like kind of like realize how important these families are to the world within their own world, and like it seems crazy that they would allow the youngest son to go to the wall after the older son died. Like, it's a Stark. It's a kind of a last connection to an older time. He comes back. They basically confirm the theory in the books that Cold Hands is Benjen Stark.
There was no way it wasn't him.
I mean, it had to be, but
but they never said it. So yeah.
But there was also no way Jon Snow was not going to die. So some people on this podcast could figure that out. I think that actor Joseph Mall, he has like 7 episodes on this show. I think he does a killer job back as Cold Hands. I really find him interesting as a character. More could have been done with him. I'm not even upset that more wasn't done with him. Beyond, I thought his death was really stupid and clumsily handled, but that's probably the worst episode the show ever did.
Do you think they were asking a lot of the audience to remember him from like 6 seasons ago? Do you think there were people who were just like, oh, there's a guy with a big face?
I think for the audience they're playing to that doesn't care that Max von Sydow is just hiding in a tree.
When you were then shooting the posters, is that going to be the one for this episode?
Yeah, they're not asking much of them. Is what I'm saying.
No, they're not.
It's just like they don't care enough to make it meaningful, but they're not asking so much of them that it becomes meaningless if you don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And again, Benjen's another character that if you don't rewatch the show, you don't even remember there's a person named Benjen. You're not going to remember him when you see him again. You're going to be confused when it's like the way they tricked Jon into dying in season 5. Like, none of it is going to make any sense. But also, it's so insignificant. They make it so insignificant that it doesn't matter.
This is true. We've managed to do it again. We're not talking about Daenerys because... she's taken by the Dothraki. She takes over the Dothraki. She gets her dragon back. She gets Marine back. She kills all the masters. She gets some boats.
Final nude scene.
She does do her one final nude scene, for no reason. It is what it is.
I think it sums up by the fact that we both just went, at the same time.
Yeah. Her walking in off the balcony is like, oh. Like, oh, Daenerys is back. Okay, sure, whatever.
Again, we just went, at the same time.
We did.
It's just really hard to care. I think probably the most interesting thing is that Tyrion really sucks at governing.
He does, and we thought he'd be good because he was good at it once. But he doesn't understand these people, I guess.
Yeah. I think in theory, the idea that conquering and ruling are 2 different things seems like a really interesting idea. Yep.
And that's been her story for a long time, but it's just not.
Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe it's just not nearly as interesting an idea as I think it is. I think especially when it's just like, she was never going to stay in Essos.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Like, that's her thing. She says, I'm not going to go back. I'm going to figure out how to rule. Like, this is my practice city, Like,
yeah, first of all, how horribly condescending and racist of you. Second of all, she was never going to stay. And I don't know how they could have tied it all together to make it work.
Yeah.
But, sometimes when a sequel has come out, and it's no longer fun to watch the earlier films because they feel like they've been rendered mute by the sequels. Why would you rewatch anything that involves Daenerys before season 7?
Yeah, from day one, it's like, all right, but when's she coming to Westeros?
Yeah, it's just, who cares? I think Emilia Clarke, when given... I think she's probably at her strongest in season 1 and 3 as she's both with her kind of rising up. I think she kind of recaptured that a little bit in season 7 again, rising up. I think she plays those beats really well.
She's fun when she is overcoming, like when she's having a win. She's not fun when it's like just a slog or static. It can't be static. That's it. She needs to be
like when
moving.
She's actually like making progress as a character towards their goal, which is to get to Westeros essentially. But other than that, she's fucking boring.
Podrick and Bronn seeing each other for the first time again was a lovely moment I forgot about, I thought.
Yeah, Brienne and Jaime had some good scenes. I think the Jaime scene with Edmure is much better in the book than in the show.
Sure.
People who did not read the book really liked the scene in the show, and I had been looking for it, because it's like the one good scene in book 4 is Jaime's just takedown of Edmure. And they just kind of make Jaime really unlikable here in a way that he wasn't unlikable.
He just turns bad. He's like, yeah, I'll kill you all. I was like, all right, dude.
And I'm just like, wait a second. And I've been desperate. I only had the books digitally, and it's just a slog to find that passage. Yeah. So I don't have the passage, but it's much better in the books.
Yes.
I thought it was really stupid that the Blackfish didn't go with Brienne.
It was. I thought the Blackfish was good in his return.
I think they got a good actor, good grumpy old man character.
I liked him standing off with Jaime. I did appreciate
kind of the idea, like, these guys don't sword fight that often. It's like, I haven't had a sword fight in a long time. I hope I don't embarrass myself. I thought in some ways that was a decent, like, they kind of redeemed his death slightly with that, but just like, come on,
just
dude.
Go,
like,
dude.
There's no honor in dying in your home. Like, go fucking save your niece or something.
I liked him, like, walking past Jaime unarmed, like, completely unafraid of him. I thought that was a pretty good, like, power move by him, but...
Yeah. I mean, I thought that actor was good. I mean, again, they're asking too much of some people to care about them, but they're also asking too little in the sense that no one doesn't really matter.
The Hound is back. We got a cold open as well, and we got Ian McShane.
I think it was a really good episode, that episode.
I thought so, too.
And they kind of used the Hound to frame that episode, I guess. I think Ian McShane was really good in that one role.
He should have been a regular.
People off because he kind of spoiled something or something.
I think
by that point, I'd long stopped reading articles about in between seasons so as to avoid spoilers. But...
It made me wish he had a larger role in the show than just
here's your and made me very excited to rewatch Deadwood before the Deadwood movie in a couple months.
Never seen it.
Really shit. I think the Hound had probably one of the best exits on the show. As good as this episode was, especially in season 7, he's kind of like just another guy.
Just a dude, yeah. I think it's another example. Like, that was his natural end point, and they just like the actor, so here he is again. And it's like, I'm glad he's there, but narratively, should he be?
And I think kind of the better thing to do would have been to check in on him once, and then just nothing. He doesn't need to go back in, and I think by this point in the show they never would have done that.
I think they just thought, oh, he does need to fight the mountain, doesn't he?
I think the more interesting choice would have been checking in and back in. Like, someone stumbles in upon him 1v1 day, he has the decision whether to come back or not, and he just chooses not to.
Yeah, just tells him to fuck off. Yeah.
And I think that would have been more interesting in a lot of ways. But good actor.
Yeah.
Good actor.
I think the idea of can a character like this ever just... Where's his place in the world when he's not just killing? You know, I think that's an interesting story. But
I do. I just... That it should have been a bigger story.
It should have been a bigger story, yes. That's what I'm getting at. Cut the Iron Islands. Just do this.
That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, that's all I have. Tormund wanting to fuck Brienne, I think, is kind of funny. But other than that, that's everything. It's
both kind of like creepy. I think it really walks right up to the line. I think in the context of bigger issues with Game of Thrones, it's probably more charming. But then in the context of Game of Thrones, it's like one more thing that's creepy.
Well, I think they're getting away with it because he's like looking at her like in a pathetic way, not in a like I must have you way. Like, he's besotted. He's not like mad with lust, you know. I think this might be the season with the highest death count, because we said goodbye to Balon Greyjoy, Marjorie Tyrell, Loras Tyrell, Tommen Lannister, Lancel Lannister, Osha, Hodor, Rickon, Alistair Thorne, Ollie, Grand Maester Pycelle, Roose Bolton, Ramsay Bolton, Leaf, who is one of the children of the forest, the Three-Eyed Raven, Walder Frey, the Blackfish, 1-1, Doran Martell, Arya Hotar, Tristan Martell, probably more people I've forgotten, but that's quite a large body count, and we are getting into the end game now.
Yeah, I'll shout out David Bradley for being. I'm pretty obsessive about like episode counts. I think 6 episodes total.
That's crazy
on the show.
One of the biggest villains
made one
of
the biggest impressions on the show possible.
Absolutely, yeah. And you got Ramsay all over the place, and Frey's a way better villain than him. So
yeah, and I think the thing is like Walder's a good example, being like, why would you spend this much time on Ramsay? Like, we have a perfectly good example here of how to spend very little time with a prominent villain.
You just assume he's going about his lordly business. He exists. We'll see him when we need to.
Yeah.
Our next episode, Season 7, the most recent, currently available season at the time of this recording. And then we'll be caught up, and that's it. And we can make our predictions about Season 8. We won't make many, I don't think. So yeah, this has been The Wheelbreakers. EnterTheRealWorld.com.
Hopefully Season 8 will bring some positive things to talk about, because I don't think Season 6 did, and Season 7 won't.
So look forward to that. Goodbye, everyone.
And who are you? How